Thanks for staying with us here on News Central Television. This is News Now. Let's take a look at the top stories for this hour. PDP National Working Committee voids suspension of BOT Chair Nwabara. Nigerian lawmakers reject hike in telecom tariff, insist service providers must improve network quality. And fresh fighting erupts in eastern DR Congo. We have details of all these stories and more. Stay with us to get every single bit of it here on News Now. Let's begin with politics. The State Executive Committee of the People's Democratic Party in Abia State has announced the suspension of the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the party, Adolf Nwabara, for 1 month. Nwabara is alleged to have in 2023 assured Governor Alex Otti that his second term is already booked. The state chairman of the party, Ibrahim, who announced his suspension at the meeting of the State Executive Committee on Tuesday in Umuahia, says the former Senate president is yet to respond to questions by the party over an alleged comment for more than 1 year.
Support that Senator Adolphus Nwabara be suspended from our party for 1 month and also vacates his position in the BOT as chairman and as member. Let them say yay. Yay. In line with the provisions of the PDP Constitution 2017 as amended, and after careful deliberations, the State Working Committee, SWC, and the State Executive Committee, SEC, have unanimously resolved to suspend Senator Adolphus Nwabara from the party.
Before the expiration of the 30 days, we are going to constitute a disciplinary committee that will make further recommendations. We are going to send our report to the National Working Committee of the party to know that this is a decision we have taken, and we have all the powers provided by the Constitution to take this position.
Meanwhile, the leader of a pro-PDP group, Yellow Ikpebu, says the pronouncement of the suspension of the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party, Adolphus Nwabara, by the State Executive Committee cannot stand. Reacting to the news of the suspension, Ikpebu alleges that Ibrahim is an imposter and cannot exercise powers he does not have. He also says Senator Nwabara has the right to give an assessment of the state irrespective of who occupies the position. In the meantime, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party has nullified the suspension of Senator Adolphus Nwabara, chairman of the Board of Trustees. In a statement on Tuesday, National Publicity Secretary Debo Ologunagba denounced the suspension as unconstitutional, arguing that it violated the party's 2017 constitution and lacked due process. Nwabara was suspended by the Abia State chapter for endorsing Governor Alex Otti's re-election bid in October 2023. However, the NWC emphasized that no state committee has the authority to suspend a member of the National Executive Committee, warning against actions that undermine party structures. Well, let's still tell you more on politics. Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State says he is confident of securing a second term should he make up his mind to seek re-election in 2027. The governor spoke in Port Harcourt during a solidarity visit by the 3 local government areas that make up the Kalabari ethnic nationality. The delegation had endorsed him for re-election, citing his leadership qualities and commitment to infrastructural development, including the ongoing 200 billion naira Trans-Kalabari Road project. The governor emphasized the focus of his administration in serving the needs of Rivers people rather than to measure how long he wants to be in office.
Power belongs to God. So you see, I like believing that we don't have any problem. When we get to the bridge, if we can't build the bridge, Moses will come and create the way for us. So you don't need to worry. When we get to that bridge, we will cross the bridge. We will cross it in a way that our enemy will be struggling. They will see where we're passing. But they will wake up to see that we're at the other side of the bridge. Huh? So don't worry.
African Development Bank President Adewunmi Onanuga says he is ready to serve Nigeria and Africa in any capacity after his tenure at the bank expires in the second half of this year. Discerning observers are interpreting this to mean he may run for Aso Rock in 2027, which he declined to do in 2023. Expectations were high and widespread for him to contest for Nigeria's presidency in the last general election, so much that he had to issue a statement clarifying he could not do so at the time because he enjoyed his job and AFDB rules did not permit him to go into politics. Additional served as Agriculture Minister in the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan. He was first elected as the 8th president of AFDB on 28th of May 2015 and later won his second and final term, which he will complete in 2025. The Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security has assured Nigerians' electoral body of the use of technology and adequate deployment of personnel for future polls. The committee made this known during the first meeting with the electoral body for the year 2025. Amadine Uyi tells us more in this report. Well, we'll bring you that package in our subsequent news bulletin, but let's move away from that and also inform you this morning that Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says that ahead of the second anniversary of President Bola Tinubu coming up on May the 29th, 2025, the ministry will commence its ministerial scorecard series. The minister, during a State of the Nation address in Abuja, says the ministers or members, of the Federal Cabinet will be afforded the opportunity to inform citizens of the performance of their ministry and efforts being made to achieve the goals of the president. His comments follow President Bola Tinubu's directive to ministers to resume a public performance review from next week as part of a drive to promote transparency and keep Nigerians informed about government programs.
The essence of this meeting is twofold. One, to take you through the activities and programs of government, especially from January to date. And second, to also intimate you with the fact that the ministerial press briefing, as directed by Mr. President, is commencing next week. Over the next 3 months, as we approach the second anniversary of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, we will bring honorable ministers to the National Press Center on a weekly basis so that they will explain to Nigerians what they are doing, what they intend to do, so that Nigerians can be better informed.
The House of Representatives has appointed Isiaka Ibrahim as its new Deputy Chief Whip, replacing the former office holder Adewunmi Onanuga, who passed away on January the 15th. The announcement was made during plenary by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, where he says that the appointment followed consultations with key stakeholders and the APC South-West caucus. Isiaka Ibrahim, the new Deputy Chief Whip, represents the Ifo-Ewekoro Federal Constituency in Ogun State, located in the southwestern part of Nigeria. Well, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll tell you about Nigeria as it ranks 36th in most corrupt country globally. Stay here for details. Welcome back. Global anti-corruption watchdog, the Transparency International, says that Nigeria now ranks the 26th most corrupt country worldwide. Transparency International, while releasing its 2024 Corruption Perception Index report in Abuja, says the corruption poses a major threat to development and has become a dangerous problem in every part of the world.
System, they want to see, the whole idea is to strengthen our fight against corruption. It's not really about any spiritual, contest of any idea or understanding of issue. I think what the bottom line is that what Nigerians want, they want an improvement in our, system. They want to see that you apply for admission, you don't need to pay bribe, whether with the money or with their body. They want to see that if you apply for a job, you are given it. There is allegation that is going on now that Central Bank of Nigeria, after sacking some people, now they are bringing in some people in the name of consultant and allegedly paying them huge amount of money. So that kind of thing, it's not even open for any competitive thing, and that break the rules even in the employment in Nigeria.
Well, to speak more on this, I have public affairs analyst joining me this morning, Dr. John. Welcome to News Now. What are the key factors that have contributed to Nigeria's consistent ranking among the most corrupt countries, despite its efforts to combat corruption?
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning. There are a lot of factors, and I have to make it very clear quickly that what we are talking about here is corruption perception. And usually perception is a bit very different from reality. But again, if a country does not understand how to create a proper perspective and perception, the country will continue to run into trouble. Just to go straight to the question you asked me, I'm just going to highlight a few issues, taking it from what the other man said in that report. Number one is when you look at our recruitment process, you discover that usually they say the children of the poor cannot have access to some government appointment and recruitment except they know somebody in government. And this always makes it to newspapers here and there. And when this goes out there, it gives a negative perception about your country. Number two, you also can look at the process of installation of leadership, which is basically election. You know what happened in 2023 and how a lot of Nigerians actually cheated that the 2023 election was not as transparent as INEC has called it. These are part of the issues. And in fact, it's even worse when you get to states where SIEC conduct election. You discover that in a state of, let's say, 200 wards, you discover that the ruling party will just clear everything. And all of these things bring bad reputation and perception as far as corruption is concerned to our nation. You can also talk about the transparency of our budget process and system. Sometimes you discover that we budget humongous amount of money for some items that people can actually go to the marketplace and check. All of these things are part of the things that we do. And I also want us to quickly even talk about the behavior of government officials in public places and places of contact. Traveling, even within Nigeria today, has become extremely difficult. Anytime I'm traveling, I just feel like just putting extra money in my pocket because I just want to give this, and just do what I have to do and leave the airport. You cannot continue to have a country like this. All of us as a people, we are pointing fingers at leadership in terms of the president, in terms of the governors, in terms of the House and National Assembly members, but we do not know that our daily life as a people actually determine whether our country will be seen as extremely corrupt or not. For instance, government can say, oh, we are fighting corruption. We are setting up institutions to do this. But as long as you drive on your road and you have access to roadblocks and police are collecting money here and there, you discover that they are not just going to take you seriously. Government can say, oh, we are doing everything to end corruption. As long as you come into Nigeria and you get to the airport and officials of government in terms of customs, in terms of, what do they call it, all these other services that you see at the airport, as long as they try to collect money from people, you discover that we continue to have this wrong perception. So it's not just about what we are,
is also about how we behave as a people. And if government, because if government is not strategic enough, we'll continue to carry this baggage of corruption, and it doesn't matter whether we continue to improve as a people.
Okay.
We must be deliberate about our action, and it's just beyond taking action.
All right. I mean, given the perception that Nigeria does have now in the global and international scene, if you put it that way, how do you think this ranking will affect what the current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is trying to do? Lure investors, bring them in, let them invest in the country, and in turn, it's also going to help to, proffer solutions to Nigeria's current economic crisis. With this, report, are there chances that our economy will indeed finally heave a sigh of relief, looking at the fact that we're not looking too good on the international stage?
Okay, so globally, really, there are two kinds of investors. There are investors that get actually discouraged by corruption stories, corruption allegations, and corruption realities. And there are investors who actually get attracted to countries where there are corruption. And we do not want to attract such investors because they have mastered the art of cutting corners, and they flourish only in countries where corruption is acceptable, either pronouncedly acceptable or secretly acceptable. So we have two types of investor. We'll continue to, when we have stories about corruption, we'll continue to attract those set of investors who will be willing to play ball, who see gain in actually playing ball. Because the reality is that there are things that if you go through the process, you will not be able to get. But because if you come into a country where you can bribe your way through, it may actually be easy. But that's not the kind of reputation we want to continue to build as a country. We want to build a reputation of not just fighting corruption, of being able to sanitize our public system so that the child of nobody can become somebody in the entire process of governance. So it's neither here or there, but if we want the best of investors, if you want the real investors who actually want to do proper business, then we must, as a matter of urgency, continue to strategically. And you see how I'm laying emphasis on strategy. I think we will get there in the course of this interview. If we are not strategic, we may continue to think we are fighting corruption, and our place in the global corruption index may remain stagnant, because there are specific places that we need to look at when we are actually engaging a fight against corruption. So it may have a bit of negative effect. Nobody really, no serious-minded investors want to romance with corruption.
Well, it seems that corruption is the bane of our current state of economy as well. And you've talked about investors are not coming in. But my final question here on News Down to you, Dr. John, simply is, what are the three major steps that the president can actually take as we speak now?
Okay, first is that I don't want us to play politics with any kind of report, either it's favorable or not. So the first thing is to be aware and to accept. Awareness and acceptance of the reality that, okay, what we have at the moment, the perception we have at the moment is not favorable. Because you know how politicians do, when these reports come out, they have to counter it. Any kind of opposition in Africa is enmity. And that's why we never get to take responsibility. So I think the first thing the president has to do is to call the leadership home. Let us accept this reality. Let us at least be aware of the fact that this is how the world looks at us. Then from there, we'll have solution. Number two thing is for the government, because we always talk about combating corruption. Everything we have done about corruption is actually about combating, not strategic. It's for the government to first of all be strategic in understanding how does Nigeria constantly get on this list. And I think I'm going to mention a few places where Transparency International draws their figure from. Number one is the issue of bribery. Don't let bribery be so pronounced on your street. I think we need to work on that. Our attention has always been those who stole in secret, but we must also pay attention to those who steal in the open. My brother, corruption is everywhere, but some nations just advertise their appetite for corruption more than the other. Number two is that this report is about diversion of public funds. Let government be deliberate in blocking some of these loopholes, usage of public office for private gain. All of these things, let the government understand. Awareness, understanding of why constantly and consistently Nigeria is on the street. And number three, because you asked me to talk about three of them. Number three is to strengthen our institution so that we can reduce the power in the hand of individuals. Individuals can make call and say, put this money from here to here, and nobody is asking questions. But when we strengthen our institution, when we punish those people who are corrupt, both openly and secretly, when we discourage corruption in public sector, you will see that all of these perception will be improved. In fact, I say that we are 145 out of 180 nations that went through the report, and our point is 26. How they measure that is that if your country gets 100, it means that your country does not have a problem of corruption perception. But for our own country to be scoring 26, I think it calls for concern beyond the rhetorics of we are doing this, we are doing that. We must be deliberate in some of these key areas that these international organizations use to judge corrupt nations and the ones that are less corrupt.
I want to say thank you so much, Dr. John, for breaking it down for us, especially sharing your thoughts on this latest story. Thanks for your time. Have a great day. Well, in the meantime, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kudirat Kekereekun, has expressed concerns over persistent challenges in the judiciary, including corruption allegations, delays in justice delivery, and perceived bias, despite efforts to tackle them. Speaking in Abuja at the opening of the 2025 hybrid refresher course for judges of Superior Courts of Record, Kekereekun acknowledged that the issues continue to undermine public confidence in the judicial system. She noted that the challenges weaken the judiciary's authority and create a disconnect between the courts and the society they serve. Highlighting the judiciary's role as the guardian of justice and the final arbiter in disputes, Kekereekun noted that its effectiveness is deeply tied to public trust. Let's go now to security matters. The Defense Headquarters disclosed on Monday that 800 former Boko Haram fighters who surrendered to the military were undergoing de-radicalization for onward reintegration into society. The Chief of Defense Operations, Major General Emeka Onumajuru, made this known in an interview where he added that 1 year is enough time to reorient and reintegrate the ex-terrorists into the larger society. He said though about 129,000 Boko Haram fighters have been arrested so far, only 800 former fighters were carefully selected to participate in the rehabilitation and reintegration project tagged Operation Safe Corridor. He argued that the kinetic and non-kinetic strategies must go hand in glove for Nigeria to win the asymmetric warfare against insurgents. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has issued a directive banning officers from carrying assault rifles while dressed in civilian clothing. The new order aims to ensure professionalism within the Nigerian police force and prevents the misuse of power. Egbetokun also emphasized the importance of upholding human rights, warning officers of severe consequences for any breaches. The IGP's directive highlights the need for police personnel to follow ethical guidelines and maintain operational integrity in all situations. Nigeria, one of Africa's largest economies, says it is building a resilient and competitive business environment by adopting Germany's chamber-led econo-governance model. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, in collaboration with the Giessen Chamber of Commerce and Industry, plans to implement this model to enhance Nigeria's economic sustainability. News Central's Nasir Balaya filed this report. We'll bring you that report in our subsequent news bulletin as well. But let's tell you quickly that residents of Lagos have been encouraged to take advantage of Ilera Eko, considered as an affordable health insurance scheme designed to reduce payments of out-of-pocket scheme. The State Health Management Agency gave the advice at the flag-off event of its door-to-door campaign in Badagry to promote the health scheme. The Central's Omolola Ololade tells us more.
Good health enables people to achieve their potential and helps build a stronger society. Against this backdrop, the Lagos State Health Management Agency says it remains committed to achieving universal health coverage for the people following a roadshow and door-to-door sensitization program aimed at promoting the Ifo-Ewekoro social health insurance scheme across the state. At its flag-off in Badagry, one of the 5 divisions in Lagos State, conversations were focused on the need for residents to take advantage of the health plan.
The executive order has said now that Ifo-Ewekoro is mandatory for all residents in Lagos State. So we are not stressing people. We don't want them to have too much issues. And we know that in the communities, people would rather walk into somewhere or have somebody come and talk to them than go online and register, for those of us that are in the corporate world. So it is necessary for us to spread our tentacles within the community and in the grassroots.
Health officials in the communities, however, believe the 60 days door-to-door sensitization campaign will help engage the residents on the benefits of enrolling into the health insurance scheme.
Bringing Lashma or Ifo-Ewekoro down to their doorstep, I'm sure it will solve more than 50% of their health issues and challenges.
Community leaders commend the Lagos State government for making healthcare accessible to the grassroots, especially the riverine area.
This Ifo-Ewekoro is one of the best things that has happened to the people of Lagos State, particularly my people in Ajeromi, Falodun, Apapa, and Amuo, Sokoriade local governments.
We want to thank Mr. Governor for this laudable initiative to have extended and created Ifo-Ewekoro Lashma for them to have qualitative and adequate healthcare delivery for those who really need this health facility.
The Health Management Agency currently has over 1 million people enrolled into its health insurance scheme, but hopes to exceed this figure after the door-to-door campaign exercise. In Lagos for News Central, I am Omolola Ololade.
Nigerian lawmakers have rejected a planned 50% hike in telecom tariffs, insisting that service providers must first improve network quality. Some of them from the House of Representatives, in an unrelated debate, also called for tougher counter-terrorism measures to curb the rise in attacks by terrorists on the civilian population in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. Our correspondent Idong Joseph has more in this package.
Ofuji Obuku, representing Yanagwa, Okpokoma constituency, sponsored the motion calling for the suspension of the proposed telecom tariff hike. Obuku argues that the increase will place additional burden on customers, many of whom are already struggling with economic hardship and poor network service.
Imagine a scenario where a 10% increase is approved. It is estimated that a 10% increase in telecommunication cost will reduce small businesses' profitability up to 7%, potentially leading to closure of businesses.
During deliberations, some lawmakers acknowledged the concerns of telecom providers regarding the need for a tariff review, but called for caution and balance. Others insisted that service quality must improve before any tariff adjustments can be considered.
The last increase was done over a decade, over 10 years. And for somebody like I did say, coming from private sector, how do you expect them to increase their performance? Knowing that prices of virtually all the various indices have increased. I think we'd rather say that the tariff can be increased, but maybe not as much as 50%.
The same telecom we are talking about right now, they are not at their best. You want to increase tariff? Yes, all over the world, even in the developed society, they pay for the services that they enjoy, but the services must be at par.
Meanwhile, lawmakers also turned their attention to another urgent issue of national importance: insecurity in the northeast. In a separate motion addressing terrorist attack in Borno State, lawmakers called on the federal government to deploy additional troops to affected communities and prioritize state police reforms.
The House resolved to urge the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Police Force and other relevant security agencies to immediately deploy personnel and reinforce security operations in Chibuhui, Yerkawa communities and other vulnerable areas in Askira-Ubahawul Federal Constituency to prevent future attack.
In unison, support as a matter of urgency the establishment of a state police. Mr. Speaker, this is very apt to avoid a continuous 1 minute silence.
Following a unanimous agreement, the House referred the matters to relevant committees for further legislative action. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Coming up next here on News Now, fresh fighting erupts in eastern DR Congo. Stay with us for that story and more. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us here on News Now. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir has dismissed his national security chief and promoted a close ally to vice president, fueling speculation about a potential succession plan. In a sweeping reshuffle, Kiir sacked 2 of the 5 vice presidents in his unity government and elevated Benjamin Bol Melan Ali to vice president in charge of the economic portfolio. The announcement was made via presidential decree read on state television. Kek Tong, appointed as national security chief just last October, was removed from his position. The decree provided no official explanation for the changes. However, growing speculation in South Sudanese media suggests the president may be laying the groundwork for his exit. Reports indicate Bol Mel is Kiir's preferred successor should health concerns force him to step down. Let's tell you that fresh fighting has erupted in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo just 3 days after African leaders called for a ceasefire, briefly halting hostilities. Rwanda-backed M23 rebels launched attacks on Congolese army positions in South Kivu province, reigniting tensions. The renewed clashes come despite a directive from East and Southern African leaders for their military chiefs to devise a plan for enforcing an unconditional ceasefire by Thursday. M23 fighters who resumed hostilities in late 2021 have rapidly captured swaths of mineral-rich eastern DRC, displacing thousands and deepening the humanitarian crisis. Botswana's Vice President and Minister of Finance, Ndaba Gaulev, on Tuesday presented the 2025-2026 budget speech to Parliament, outlining the government's commitment to transformation and citizen-focused policies. This budget holds particular significance as the first under the 13th Parliament and the new administration, which has pledged to prioritize economic development, governance reforms, and social welfare. While unveiling the proposals, Gaulev emphasized that the upcoming financial year will also see the launch of the 12th National Development Plan, a blueprint aimed at positioning Botswana as a model of effective governance, unity, fairness, and prosperity across Africa. Still ahead on News Now, Israel threatens to end truce if Hamas fails to free hostages by Saturday. Stay here for details. Russia has freed an American prisoner following the first known visit by a member of President Donald Trump's administration to Moscow. The White House said the release of Mark Fogel, a U.S. citizen jailed in 2021 on drug charges, was secured through a prisoner exchange, though no further details were provided. Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff was involved in the negotiations and was reportedly leaving Russian airspace with Fogel. Witwok, who previously played a key role in brokering a fragile Israel-Hamas ceasefire, is the highest-ranking U.S. official known to have traveled to Russia in recent years.
He's become a very famous guy. He's a very happy guy tonight, so it's just a real honor, an honor to have you at the White House.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. And I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero. These men that came from the diplomatic service are heroes. The senators and representatives that passed legislation in my honor to get me home are the heroes. I am in awe of what they all did. My family has been a force.
Tech billionaire Elon Musk, appointed by President Donald Trump to spearhead federal cost-cutting measures, has warned that the United States faces bankruptcy if spending is not curbed. Speaking at the White House alongside Trump, Musk outlined concerns over the soaring budget deficit, which reached $1.8 trillion in the last fiscal year, and highlighted the burden of mounting interest payments on national debt. Musk leads the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, tasked with streamlining federal spending. His remarks come as the Trump administration battles legal challenges with federal judges scrutinizing the legality of the White House's aggressive cost-cutting measures.
We have this unelected fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want. What I really want to say is, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget.
Let's tell you that Israel's Prime Minister has warned Hamas that the ceasefire in Gaza will end and full-scale military operations will resume unless the Palestinian group releases hostages by Saturday. Benjamin Netanyahu said he had ordered Israeli forces to amass in and around Gaza following Hamas's decision to delay the release of more captives. He did not clarify whether he was demanding the release of all 76 remaining hostages or just the 3 expected to be freed this Saturday. Hamas, in response, insisted it remains committed to the ceasefire agreement but accused Israel of repeated violations, including blocking essential humanitarian aid, claims Israel has denied.
ההחלטה שהעברתי בקבינט פה אחד היא זאת. אם חמאס לא יחזיר את חטופינו עד שבת בצהריים, הפסקת האש תיפסק וצה"ל יחזור ללחימה עצימה עד להכרעה סופית של החמאס. לאור הודעת החמאס על ההחלטה שלו להפר את ההסכם ולא לשחרר את החטופים שלנו, הנחיתי אמש את צה"ל לצבור כוחות בתוך רצועת עזה ומסביב לרצועת עזה. הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות אלה, היא תושלם בזמן הקרוב ביותר. כולנו גם בירכנו על הדרישה של הנשיא טראמפ לשחרור חטופינו עד שבת בצהריים, וכולנו גם בירכנו על החזון המהפכני של הנשיא לעתיד עזה.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in a recent circular directed banks to eliminate 3 free monthly withdrawals on other banks' ATMs started March 1st, 2025. Signed by John Onanuga, Acting Director of Financial Policy, this policy revises ATM fees on the CBN's 2020 Guide to Charges. Customers will now pay 100 naira per 20,000 naira withdrawal with additional surcharges on off-site ATMs, aiming to improve ATM accessibility and promote cashless transactions nationwide. And in sports, the Nigeria Basketball Federation has announced replacements for unavailable D Tigers players ahead of the 2025 FIBA Afro-Basket qualifiers third window set for the 17th till the 24th of February in Tripoli, Libya. Michael Okiki, Patrick Abba and Aziz Sulaiman are unavailable, prompting NBBF to call up Favor Aboje, who plays for Nile University. Israel Philip plays for the Nigeria Customs, and Johnson Anaye, who plays for the Rivers Hoopers, as replacements. Meanwhile, the home-based training camp has opened in Abuja will run until the 16th of February. Selected home-based players will then join foreign-based teammates in Tripoli on the 17th of February for the final camp phase and competition. Let's tell you that Chelsea striker Sam Kerr was found not guilty of racially aggravated harassment after calling a British police officer stupid and white. A jury at Kingston Crown Court in London acquitted the Australia captain following a 4-hour deliberation. The case stemmed from an incident on the 30th of January 2023 when Kerr and her partner, West Ham's Christy Mewis, were taken to Twickenham police station after a dispute with a taxi driver. At the station, Kerr allegedly insulted Officer Stephen Lovell. The judge noted Kerr's behavior contributed to the allegation but ruled in her favor. Bangladesh international Sholi Akhtar has been handed a 5-year ban from all cricket after admitting to multiple breaches of the ICC's anti-corruption code. A 36-year-old spinner attempted to bribe a fellow Bangladeshi player with €13,000 during the 2023 Women's T20 World Cup in South Africa. The targeted player, who was not named, reported the approach, leading to an investigation. Akhtar, who last played for Bangladesh in 2022, also admitted to obstructing the inquiry. Bangladesh Cricket Board Director Najmul Abedin Fahim called the incident unfortunate and reiterated the board's zero-tolerance stance on corruption. And that's all we have for you on the news for this hour. But before we go, another look at some of the major stories. PDP National Working Committee has avoided suspension of BOT Chair Nwabara. Nigerian lawmakers have rejected hike in telecom tariff, insist service providers must improve network quality. We also told you that fresh fighting has erupted in eastern DR Congo following breach of ceasefire agreement. You can watch News Central live on the following platforms right there on the screen. And don't forget to always stream on YouTube, Facebook as well. 10 a.m., make sure you stay put. The ladies will be here for Jasiri. I'm Joe Hansen, thanking you for watching. Do have a beautiful morning.